I'm first going to just kind of scroll this part around so you have a good idea of what you're looking at. The idea with this part this week is I really want you to understand when we're building out a part, okay, the easiest way to start a part is look at it and find the biggest face that you can build. Okay, so if you're looking at this, the biggest face that we can build, knowing that these are going to be the same dimensions as last week in the sense that all these cubes here are going to be 15 millimeters by 15 millimeters. So the biggest one that we're going to be able to build is this one in the back, right? Which is really looking at it kind of from the back of it is this section right here. Building this, which is really you kind of have a 4 cubes here. If you were to draw these lines out, you have 4 cubes and then a cube over here and a cube to the bottom. And by building that out, we can build that, and then all we need to build out is 3 cubes. And then this week we're going to learn how to cut to a depth, and we're cutting that same circle. At the end, all these first parts will all fit together to go into a little puzzle. Okay, so with that being said, in Schoology this week, you got a link to the drawing just like last week. Okay, that will bring you to this drawing. Now, this drawing is going to look a little bit different than last week, but essentially here's that front view that we're looking at. All right, and here are those 4 cubes and the cubes to the side. Okay, now this here, you can see this section A, right, is this section here, which is a cross section, which if where this line is, it cuts that in half. It gives a section, it bisects that. So what that section is telling us the depth of that cut. So before we get into all of that, let's start building this section here. So we need 4 cubes and then one on the bottom and one on the side. Okay, so to get that started in our studio, right, we come here to create, and we're going to create a document. We'll call this part B. Okay, so let's get started. First we need to sketch, and we're going to sketch it on a plane, right? So for this one, I'm going to want to choose the front plane, and I want to face that to the front. Then from there, we can do a couple things here. We can start with this this corner rectangle, just like we did before. Now, I've already seen an issue with mine, and mine's set to inches. Yours might be too, so let's make sure we come in here to the workspace units and switch that over to millimeter and to grams. So to make sure all of this is set correctly. So since I know I needed that kind of 4 cube by 4 cube to start, I can use this to draw that out, and then I'm going to re-enter the sketch by double clicking here, and then from there I'm going to smart dimension that out by starting. So I'm going to turn on my dimensions, and I know 4 cubes is going to be a depth of 30, a width of 30 and a height of 30. Okay, so from there all I need to do is add 2 other cubes. So I can either continue on this corner rectangle and I can draw out another one, okay, and get it close. So I need that, or I can come in here with my line tool. I like to start at a corner, and I can draw that out, and then I'm going to dimension these to my depth. So first I need to trim, right? So I need to trim some lines here. So I want to trim this line, and as I scroll in, I want to trim this line. And when I do that, all I'm doing is I'm coming here to trim, right? And then I'm going to click on a line, whatever line I want to trim. So this line, because right now here I have 3 shapes. And when I go to extrude this, the problem with having 3 shapes, it's going to ask me if I want to extrude this shape, or this shape. So if you only click on 2 shapes, it could potentially get confusing. So what we want to do is we want to trim these lines here, this line and this line. Now, sorry, that line. Now this is one shape, okay? And now it's going to be much less confusing. So now let's just dimension everything, because we see these lines here in blue. We know those are not yet defined, so that needs to be 15. This needs to be 15. Now that's all in black. Again, coming over here to 15 and to 15. So now we have our initial shape that we're going to set up. Now all we need to do is come up here and tell it what to do. We want we want to add a new surface, and we want to take that out to depth of 15 as well, and accept that. So now on here, as I click, now we have our first design that we needed for a depth of 15. Okay, so let's come back in here and peek at that drawing. So here's where we got so far, and we can line that up according to this drawing. So we're gonna line it up just like that. So we got our little spot over here coming to the left, and this coming down. All right, so sometimes it takes a hard time to, not a hard time, but it takes a little bit to maybe we built it differently. There's not really a right way or a wrong way to build this. And on this, I'm using my keyboard here, my left and right, to turn that. So right here, I'm on my front view, and I have this to my little part here to the left, and my cube down. And that's the view that we're looking here for, cube to the left and cube down. Now from here, I need to build a little L right here. Okay, so I'm going to start building that, and that's going to go right here. So I'm going to sketch. It's going to ask me what plane. Now I don't want to click on the front plane. I want to actually build on top of it. So I'm going to click on that plane. Then from there, I'm going to select my line tool, and I'm going to lock it in on my point of origin. And this should be a pretty self-explanatory sketch, because the dimensions are going to be pretty set, and it should highlight to everything. And I just sketched that out. Now it's always good to double check. I know everything's in black, but this should be to 30, this to 30, and these here to 15. Okay, so it looks like everything's good. So we're going to then take that sketch, and we don't want new, we want to add to what we have, again to a depth of 15, and we want to merge it with the first part. So merge all, and now we're going to accept that. Okay, so now as we scroll out, now we have our view here. So let's go on our front view, come back here into the drawing, and we're going to look here. So now we need to cut this out right here. We're going to make this cut, and that's 12 wide and a depth of 25 high. Okay, so sketch. We're going to click on that plane that we want to sketch, and we're going to select a corner rectangle, and we're just going to draw a rectangle out in here. Now my rectangle locked onto this line, which isn't ideal, so I want to undo that. So I'm just going to close out of that sketch. Okay, I don't want to restore it, and I'm going to start a sketch over. And I'm going to, instead of starting up here where it might have a tendency to lock on that line, I'm just going to start down here in more of an open space, and I don't want it to lock anywhere. So it should be in all blue. And when it's in all blue, we know we've done it right. If you have to go and trim it out or just close that sketch a couple times, that's okay. And so now what we want to do is dimension this out. And this is going to be to 12. And this one's going to be to 25. So now we need to figure out how to get this even in here. So one thing we can do is we could take a line and either draw it in the center here and then cut it out later. But let's use math, okay? So we know that this is a depth of 12, or excuse me, this is a width of 12, and we know that this gap here is a width of 15. So what we need to do is tell this right here. We know that 15 minus 12 is 3. Okay, so because we know that is 3, we need to take that and cut that 3 in half. So half of 3 is 1.5. And if you also, we can use this as a calculator as well. So we could do 3 divided by 2, and that's going to give that 1.5. Or we could write this out as an equation and do 15 minus 12, and that's going to give us the 3. And then from there, we can take the 15 minus 12, and we should be able to divide that by 2, giving us 1.5. So you can write that equation out. So we're going to do the same thing here. We know this is 25, and this line here is going to be 30. So we know that the end, if we take 30 minus the 25, we know that there's going to be a total of 5 millimeters here. We can take 5 and divide that by 2, which I hope you would know that is 2.5. So we could either come in here and just dimension that to 2.5. So let's come in here with our dimension on, and we're going to, we know it's 2.5, but let's write that equation out. 30 minus 25, and we know from orders of operation we want to have this done first. Now we could write the equation parentheses and use that, which is fine, but for keeping this kind of easy, we're going to just clean that up. So we got that to depth of 2.5. Now on this sketch, we know we need to cut this out to a depth of 20. So to do that, we are going to come over here to our extrude, and we want to remove material. So when we come here to remove, and we want to do it blind. Okay, so I know there's a lot, but blind means essentially we tell it to cut it out at a depth, and that depth is going to be 20. So now when we rotate this, we should see a three-dimensional cut into that. So we are almost done with this shape here. So now we need to just add this hole, and this view right here, we can rotate that to have it be this bottom view, right? So we're looking at that view just like that is going to be this view here, and we know that needs to be a diameter of 12. So to get that circled just like we did last week, we're going to sketch. It's going to ask us what plane we want to sketch on. We want to sketch on that plane. We're going to highlight that circle. Now we could either choose to go and just click close as we can to the center, and then use smart dimensioning to pull that piece and use math like we just did for that other one, or we can try and use some of the features here. So I'm going to just kind of scroll right in the middle of this line, and it will anchor to that point. Now I'm going to do the same over here. Now it's going to want to highlight to this line, okay, which is not ideal because we really want half of that line. And it's going to do the same thing over here. It's going to want to lock the halfway point. So we are actually going to have to use some math, which is okay. So we're going to draw that circle out here. So we know this one's already there in the middle. So we need to use our dimension tool anyway to take this and lock that in at 12. And then we need the smart dimension. We've already told it to lock to the center here, right? It's 7.5 because 7.5 is half of 15, which is this depth here. But now we need to tell it to lock from this, sorry, let's make sure that is on. But now we're looking for this dimension here to be locked in at 7.5 as well. Now we have our circle. Everything's fully dimensioned because everything turned black. We're going to come over here and we are going to once again remove material, and we can do it. This one doesn't matter as much. We can do it blind, but we're just going to go through all for right now, and that's just telling it to cut through everything, and we will accept that. Now our part is built. Let's turn it here to the isometric view. We'll scroll in a little bit on it. Now we need to take our part here, and we want to add, once again, we want to assign a material. So to do that, what I'm going to do is you can either click here, but I like to come over here, highlight the whole part by clicking part 1, right clicking here, and assign a material for part 1. From there we're going to do the same, the 1060 alloy, so you can just search 1060 aluminum alloy and accept that and assign that material. Now to check the mass properties of that, again, over here you want to make sure the part is highlighted and click on this little balance scale here and look at our mass properties, and our mass is going to be 61.232 grams. Again, so that's 61.232 grams, and if you look at here on our drawing, we're at 61.23 grams. So we built that part correctly. Now once again, to share, to turn that in, I'm going to come up here to share, and you want to get a link to share, and you can turn on that link sharing, copy that link to the clipboard, and then from there you're going to come in here to the Schoology. You're going to click on the part to turn it in. Now when you look at this, there will be a section here where you can type stuff in. You can just hit Control V to paste that link to your part in that section and submit your assignment. And then from there I'm able to go in through that link and open up your part and see that you built it correctly. Again, let me know if you have any other questions or if there's any way I can help you with this week's build. Again, I hope this is not too difficult, and this should take you about an hour. We'll kind of pick up a little bit more after this. I also am going to ask that you are going to try a new part this week. Now, if this takes you an hour, okay, you can call it good with just this part. I'm going to drop a drawing. If you fly through this part and you're done with it in the time it took to make this video, you really don't have to go back and look. I'm going to ask that you try the next part on your own. I will drop the drawing into the week 3 folder, and I want you to give that a shot. See how that goes, building that out on your own. Let me know if you have any questions, and best of luck. Hope all is well.